Hey everyone, I want to do my very informal race recap because I can't stop thinking about the day and a lot of y'all have messaged me or asked questions. So I just want to give you the blow by blow as far as I remember it. So I'll make this as efficient as I can. If you want more detail, like feel free to ask me, text me, DM me, because I'm enjoying talking about it and processing it a bit. But I'll just say that the night before the race was really great. Had dinner with friends and family and just had pasta. And I was worried I wasn't going to fall asleep or sleep very well at all. Because, like early flights and stuff like that, I can't sleep. But I closed my eyes at 10 p.m. or so. Slept solid right until 4 a.m. My alarm went off and I was awake. So I got up, made some breakfast. I had an English muffin and a banana with peanut butter. And then my cousin Lindsay drove me to the race site. I put in some extra nutrition to all my gear bags, and then they shuttled us to the swim start. So got to the swim start and was there probably like an hour and a half or so waiting for entry into the water. Temperature of the water was 76.1 degrees, which means it wasn't legal for the pros or age groupers who wanted to qualify for Kona to wear wetsuits. I chose to wear a wetsuit because I'm a terrible swimmer and they add buoyancy. So I went to the very back of the swimmer group. That's where the wetsuits had to start. And I got in the water at 8:28 a.m. and there are only about 30 or 40 swimmers behind me still entering the water. So I got in the water. I knew the swim would be my hardest part. And right off the bat it was. I already had a trick up my sleeve. I knew I could backstroke if I needed to settle my breath and get calm because open water is the bane of my existence. Unfortunately, this swim is 3,800 meters or 2.4 miles. And for 2,000 of those meters, I was backstroking. So hadn't trained for that, completely out of sorts. The river was really wide, so I was on my back with my goggles on and all I could see was blue sky. My goggles were fogging. It was a very disorienting experience, pretty disheartening, but I just knew there was no way I could give up at that point, just given all the work I had done. So in many ways that pulled me down the river. I also found a kayaker, Jill, a safety kayaker who let me hang out with her the whole swim. I asked her to stay with me and she guided me through the whole swim. About 2,000 meters, I was able to finally, my heart rate was low enough that I could flip over and start my freestyle. So that's what I did. I swam really slow, but the currents are super fast in that river. So I expected my swim to take an hour and 45 minutes. And it took an hour and 16. And that is not because of my effort. It was really because of the currents. On the swim, because of the backstroke, I could feel I was using my legs more. And I was trying to really dig in with my arms because I knew I wouldn't need them the rest of the day, but I could feel a little bit of a tweak, like something in my left hamstring that I was concerned about for the rest of the day, but got out of the water and I was completely spent. My brother said I looked shell-shocked and that is exactly how I felt. It's like a huge adrenaline rush and then a bunch of physical exertion and mental stamina to get me through that. And then I just crashed when I got out of the water. So I spent 18 minutes in transition 1. I really tried to take my time to get just settled and mentally ready and physically able to go onto the bike. I felt a little bit nauseous, but I didn't throw up. I pounded half a Coca-Cola because my blood sugar needed it. And then I made my way out to my bike and I knew if I could get to the bike, I would have a shot at finishing the race. So little did I know, I didn't know what I was going to be in for on the bike. The way they had us go was out on this highway. They closed down the lanes of a highway and you biked out 4 or 5 miles before you got to what would be one of our turnaround points. You start there, bike out 18 miles, then turn back around. That's one loop. And then we do 3 different loops and then head back to transition. So by the time I hit just past that first turnaround point to get onto the course, the pros were just finishing their first lap. So they were already like 30 miles in. and I was on mile 4.5. I remember looking at my Garmin clock or computer on my bike, and it said 4.5 miles, and I was just climbing uphill to get out to the course. And that was the first time in the day I thought, I want to quit. So pretty early in the day for that. Long story short, the bike was really hot. It's probably 85 or so, 82 degrees outside, but there's no cloud cover. It's humid in the south, and it was on a highway, like concrete. So I don't know what the heat index might have been, but it was up there. And immediately when I got on the bike, I was super thirsty. Normally I drink 1 bottle of water, 16 ounces every hour with a noon tab. It has 300 milligrams of sodium. By the time I hit half an hour, I'd already downed 2 water bottles. So I knew it was going to be a long day of hydrating. And in the swim start, before we got in the parking lot, hanging out with some other triathletes, this one woman, as like a last piece of advice for first timers, she said, by the way, you guys, if you get to the run and in your whole day you haven't peed yet, you are done. You should not start the run. You are dehydrated and it's dangerous. Like you will have renal failure or kidney failure, whatever she said. And I was like, that stuck with me all day. So I was really pleased because about half an hour into the bike ride, I had to stop and go to the bathroom, and I'd already gone to the bathroom after the swim. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm hydrated. I'm locked in. So these are things you pay attention to in endurance events. It's all about fueling and nutrition and hydration and managing that with your physical exertion. So I'll fast forward. The bike ride had just epic climbing combined with headwinds. It was just, it was a lot to get into it. Miles 20 to 75, I was like, yep, this is biking. This is what I do. It wasn't fun. I didn't like it. When you're on the bike, you can't ride in groups because you can't draft. So if you come up against a rider, you either have to pass them and you have 12 seconds to do it, or you have to stay 3 distances, bike lengths behind them. So there's no real camaraderie, but there are fans. So this is when my support crew really came through. They chased me down the highway, found me like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times and popped up in different places. And that really helped me mentally. They helped me mentally all day. I could not have done it without just a really good support crew there. So get through, it was like mile 92 when I was on the last turnaround to come back on the bike. So I knew I had 20 miles left. And at this point, I'd been one of the last swimmers to start. And the way they do Ironman races is they close the finish line at 16 and a half hours after the last person starts the swim. That's the official race clock. And each individual athlete technically has like 16 and a half hours from their start to finish their race. And I was at the back to start, so I was basically more or less on track with like the race clock all day. And because I was at the back, that also meant that the cutoff times for when you were still allowed to stay on course were just constantly chasing me all day. So when I hit that last turnaround point, started heading back towards race headquarters on the bike at mile 92, on the other side of the highway I just finished, I could see the truck coming behind another cyclist, picking up the cones. And like, that was the cutoff truck. So I had enough energy in my legs. I pounded through that last 20 miles because again, I refused to, be cut off from the race. I needed to get to the run. So I got into a transition area, and I think it was around 6:15 p.m. So the bike ride took me 8 hours and 8 minutes, which was about as expected. And the only issue again was that urgency of the cutoff. I remembered I had to be on the running course by 6:20 or I would be disqualified. So I ran off my bike, ran through transition. It still took me 11 minutes to get ready, but in the tent they told me I was good, that I wasn't going to get cut off. So I took off on the course around 6:20 for the run, and my legs felt good. Like, boggled my mind. I couldn't fathom that I was going to go run a marathon at that point, but also as soon as I started running, my legs felt fine. And that's the weird part about training so much for endurance is like, that's expected, but like crazy, right? So started on my run, and once again, I knew I had a cutoff time of 9:20 p.m. I had to have finished the first half of my marathon. And it's 2 loops, so it's the same course twice. I'll fast forward again. I pretty much ran for the whole first half of the marathon, but I walked through the aid station. So I'd take my time to grab a banana or drink some Coca-Cola, grab some potato chips. Like that was what I did at the aid stations, and then you run to the next one. So every mile, you're just sort of walking. But my pace was probably around 12.5, 13.5 minute per mile pace. It really got scary when I knew I was coming up towards the 9:20 cutoff at mile 13.1. I made it with 7 minutes to spare, which is, across the course of a day like that, just really small. So what I thought was true was that when I arrived, I thought the race would be over at 12:20 a.m. because that's what they estimated the day before. I didn't know, though, what time it actually was because I didn't know when the last swimmer entered the water. Like, all this math doesn't happen very easily when you're out on the course. And if you're fast enough, you don't have to think about it, but that wasn't my experience. I needed to know these things. So I thought coming into my second half of my marathon that I would have exactly 3 hours to finish it, which is what it took me to do my first half. And with that and the way my body was feeling, it felt like that must be impossible, that I wouldn't be able to do the same or negative splits on what I'd just done. No way. So that was a moment I was like the most mentally overwhelmed. I never lost my shit. I never went off the rails. My brain refused to let me get emotional. There just was none of that. It was all business. But at that point, I saw my brother at the 13.1. He like emerged from the woods and he was in running clothes. And I said to him, I'm not going to finish the race. Like, it's just not going to happen. I don't have the time. And the cutoff's 12:20. And he said, well, let's just start running and I'll look up all the times, but like, let's just start moving. And I'm pretty sure he thought he was going to run for like a mile or two to keep me company, which, by the way, isn't allowed. But at the back of the pack of an Ironman, in case you ever need to know, they don't care. So I didn't care at that point either. I'm like, come run with me, my God. And, you know, Chris did an amazing job of finding my cutoff times. And then I would ask him like, well, what pace do I need to keep if I need to hit that cutoff time? And what pace are we at now? I made him recalculate everything like every 10 minutes and just keep me really focused on like the pace I needed to take. And I kept gaining on, I was having negative splits. I was gaining on the time. And so I was giving myself more and more of a buffer, which I knew I might need at the end. Not that it's that fun to talk about, but one thing on these endurance events is like, you don't know what your stomach's going to do. And I'd been really good still with hydration and nutrition, but around mile 14 is when I thought my stomach's a little upset. You're not taking in really any solid food all day. So, I was kind of lucky. Mile 14 and 16, I needed a porta potty, but other than that, I was fine. This is where the advice came in from a friend before. Carla told me, she runs marathons. She said, Megan, just one piece of advice on course, never trust a fart. And that was very sound advice and made sure I got through okay. So I got in towards the real last part of the run there. And about mile 16 is where another athlete joined me. And by the way, Chris was still running with me. So my brother, who'd been out cheering for me all day, not warmed up at all, threw on his clothes thinking it'd be a mile or two. I mean, he'd had like a couple margaritas before getting on course with me, just hanging. This man ended up running the entire last half of the marathon with me. I think that part was the most incredible part of the whole day for me, to have a sibling and someone to hang with me like that and facilitate my ability to meet my goal was really incredible. In the moment, I couldn't take it all in, but like looking back, every time I think about it, it really gets me. So, We had an athlete join us at mile 16 who thought he hadn't made a cutoff. But when he saw us run through, he realized he still had a chance. So he stayed with us till the end, ran the last, 9 miles, 10 miles with us. He was really hurting. He had horrible stomach cramps and issues all day. So it was right about then that I also started to get a really bad side stitch. No matter what I did, as soon as I started running, it was like I kind of had to just like bend over and favor the side stitch. I could not shake it. So while that slowed me down quite a bit, I kept power walking and doing as much as I could to run whenever I felt like I could, even if it was only 20 steps at a time. So Anthony and I did this together. Chris kept us posted on our cutoff times and pace. And we got to, mile 25, and I knew I had it. I knew even if I walked, I would finish in time. So that was a surreal feeling. I wish I could say I really enjoyed that last mile, but my side hurt a lot, and I was, I was ready to be done, and I was really excited about being done. I was so motivated to cross that finish line, and to know that it was within reach was really special. So Anthony and I walked to the last half mile or so, and then he ran ahead and had his own moment through the finish chute, and then I followed right after him. I ended up finishing, my full time for the race was 16 hours and 14 minutes. That marathon, was 6 hours and 21 minutes. So when you look at it, with my total time of 16 hours, 14 minutes, I came within my own cutoff by 16 minutes on that whole day. I never once had a cramp. I never once threw up. I never once had my knees or joints or tendons tighten up in a way that I couldn't handle. I never had a flat tire. Everything that could have gone right did for me. It was just having to handle the emotional and physical challenge, which is what I had trained for. And the rest of it, that's why going into the race, I thought there's a 50-50 chance I'll finish this. I believed in my training and my plan, but at the end of the day, you don't know what the race day will bring. I saw plenty of people in bike accidents or, stomach bugs, things that you just don't know are going to pop up. So while I knew I'd done what I could control, I didn't know what I wouldn't be able to control out there. And I think I just got really lucky, and I just feel so great that my whole race came together so well. My support team was unbelievable, and I'll never forget that feeling. Absolutely not. I'm really proud of what I did, and there's just a lot to think about now. I will say, if you're interested in what happens after the race, when I walked over the finish line, and I felt fine. I ran to the finish chute. I was walking around. I kept walking to make sure I didn't freeze up with my muscles. I tried to stretch, but I wasn't super flexible at that point. Couldn't really bend down to touch my toes or anything. I had a chocolate milk. I wasn't super hungry. I had a little bit of water, and we went home that night, and I told my support crew to force me to eat some food. So I ate a little bit of pasta and finished my chocolate milk. That's about all I could do. And I tried to get in bed around midnight, or no, later than that, maybe 1:30, 2 a.m. and didn't fall asleep till after 4. My body ached from the inside out, just general ache, not a pinpoint, not, oh man, my left, whatever, it's just aching everywhere. So it was really hard to feel comfortable. And both my big toes will be losing their toenails. They are purple and red and unhappy. But that's all I felt with my body. Next morning I woke up at 9, so I got about 5 hours of sleep. I was not super hungry. And my brain was just racing, rehashing the whole day. It's all I could do, sort of obsessively. I guess all these things are pretty normal. When you go through an event like that, your nervous system is really elevated. So you end up, your cortisol, your hormones, your just adrenaline, right? You're just so amped. You're in fight or flight for 16 hours in the moments leading up to the race. So it takes a while to come down. And that was true for me. My appetite was pretty suppressed. I knew I should feel hungry, and I kind of did, but as soon as I started eating, I generally feel full right away. But I would keep eating because I knew I needed to. And that's another thing that was true, that I was so over it, just like forcing the idea of having to force myself to ingest things for that whole day. I have to drink this water. I have to eat this half a banana. I have to eat this goo. Like, I think mentally too, there's some fatigue of like, I don't want to force anything else into my body now. So that's what I was up against in the immediate aftermath. One thing I wanted to mention that I'm also really proud of for the race is that my blood sugar was more or less in a fantastic range through the entire race. I never dropped low, probably no lower than like 90 something, which is really good. And I never got above like 220. And you may not have context for that, but it was fantastic. I like crushed it on that. And I'm really proud of that because, you know, I have to manage my blood sugar and be able to be performant, to feel good enough to keep going. And so that was a huge piece for me that allowed me to keep going. Maybe I even had an advantage because I just pay so much more attention to my body, even more than like you maybe have to as an endurance athlete. Like, it really is like extra important. So grateful for my experience doing that, I guess, for a long time in my life. And the next day I still have not felt entirely sore in like the ways you might think. I've never like, on the flight back, I sat for like 4 hours and I just typed out this whole experience so I could get it all down on paper. My friend Nat suggested that. She was with me on the flight, and I'm so glad she suggested that. I typed it all out, so I didn't move much. And when I got up to go to the bathroom towards the end of the flight, 4 hours in, I had trouble getting out of my seat. It's like things froze up again. So I've been trying to go for walks every day. I went for like a 40-minute walk this morning, and it felt really good. Feels good on the body. I'm not sure. I could probably touch my toes right now. I'm not sure I could do a deep squat or like sprint. It's not really on the agenda. But mentally and in my body today, I almost feel good enough. I have this feeling of like, I want to move my body again. So I think that's good for recovery. And let's see, it's about 48 hours later when my hunger returned. So I finished the race Monday morning, Eastern time at like 12:30 a.m. and 12:45. So West Coast time last night around 10 p.m. I was finally starting to fall asleep, got back from the airport and got pretty hungry. So I ate a whole bag of goldfish. I just kept going and it didn't stop, and I wasn't going to stop myself. So I ate a whole bag of goldfish, gave a significant amount of insulin for that, went to bed, woke up this morning and was like mildly hungry, which was good. And then at lunch, so let's call it 50 plus hours later, hungry was definitely the word. I was ready to eat some food. I still haven't slept great, but I'm hoping that I'll be relaxed enough with my nervous system tonight to get like a good 9 hours. I've got like 5, 5, and 7 so far. So I think that's the full short version at 25 minutes. But for those of you who are interested, that was my experience. And I feel, again, really lucky. I just had such an incredible first Ironman, which at this point I do not plan to ever sign up for another one, but it was so special and excellent. And I finished it. I think, why ruin a good thing, you know? But thank you so much to all of you who've been following along and interested in this journey. It's been life-changing, and I'm sure will continue to be in ways I don't know yet, but I'm feeling really great about it, and just proud of the work I put in, and super grateful to all of you who helped me out at every step of the way. So thank you, and we'll see what the next challenge brings. I'll keep you guys posted.